Hello, and welcome to Grandad Stories. Not long ago, not far away, two young cousins were playing in their grandparents' house. In the bedroom, each had a tablet. They were playing a linked game on the two tablets. Oliver said, "I found a great hoard of diamonds. I'm gonna make myself a sword. I'll be able to beat everything with a diamond sword." And just as he said that, the door swung all by itself, and with a loud click it closed. Amy said, "Oh no, not again." The door turned all sparkly and changed through all the colours of the rainbow, eventually settling on a mid-grey colour. Some might call it battleship grey. Oliver said, "Shall I open it?" Amy said, "I suppose we'll have to. We'll never know how long we'll be here if we don't." So Oliver walked over, put his hand on the handle, which now felt quite warm, turned it and opened the door. Outside there was a large room that was almost completely painted the same colour as the door. All around the walls and ceilings there were what looked like handrails. Now this room was at least twice as high as the bedroom they were sitting in. So Oliver went to have a look. As he stepped forward, he went, "Whoa!" because his feet never really touched the ground. As he pushed himself off from inside the door, he began to move forward and upwards, and he was completely weightless as soon as he left the door. He went forward and upwards, and after some time he hit the wall with a bit of a bump. He bounced off the wall and just in time grabbed one of the handrails and was hanging there, quite ridiculously looking, with his legs floating in mid-air. Then he heard a laugh from behind, and standing inside the door was Amy. With her tablet in her hand, she'd been videoing it the whole time. Oliver said, "That's not fair." Amy said, "Yes, it's funny." So she, now knowing what was going to happen, went out with some grace and stepped out and pushed off and got almost into a Superman pose, except for holding the tablet in her other hand and videoing it. She videoed all the way over until she reached the wall beside Oliver, and then she handed him the tablet and she pushed off again and floated across the room to the other side. It was only then that she noticed that the door had completely gone. They were so busy floating they didn't even see it go this time. So for quite some time the two children bounced around doing tumbles and ballerina twirls and all sorts of stuff, videoing it the whole time. Amy said, "We'll put this on YouTube." Oliver said, "Yeah, that'd be good." And Amy said, "This will completely fox that Captain Disillusion. Let's see him trying to find the wires in this one." And Oliver said, "It'll blow his mind. He'll probably be there for about 2 months and eventually give up and be quiet." Then, just as Oliver stopped talking, there was a loud clang at the end of this long room. A door had opened and bumped against the bulkhead. In walked a tall man in a bright yellow jumpsuit. Now what made this man unusual was his hands seemed to be twice the size as normal, with more fingers than you would expect. They didn't have time to count them when he glided along on rollers, which must have been magnetic because they stayed stuck to the floor. He reached up, grabbed the children and pulled them down. Now the children were looking at him extremely strangely, because it's not every day you see somebody with bright blue skin. And not only bright blue skin, but orange feather-like hair. And then he said into what might have been a radio, "Captain, I've got our saboteurs. I think we'll be all right from now on." So he took the children and held them by the back of the neck, and he skated around in a circle and then back down and out through the door. He went along a long corridor, which, though he didn't seem very strong, he was able to carry the children very easily because they were weightless. So he went along, came to another door, and as he got close, the door opened. On the other side, there was a floor that was moving past the door almost like a conveyor belt. It seemed very unusual because the further it went away from the door, the faster it seemed to get. He pushed the children through and then stepped in himself, grabbing the children quite tight as he did so, and they began to move sideways. As they began to move, they felt themselves drop to the floor. Then he moved them forward until they reached the fastest moving part of the floor and said, "Come with me." So he walked them along and they came to a door and they turned left and went in. And he said, "Captain, I found them. Here they are, strange creatures." And the captain looked and said, "They don't look much like saboteurs. But I would like to know, how did you get onto my ship?" So Amy went, "Oh, here we go." And she told him the story about the doors. Now he didn't really believe her, because why would he? And Oliver said, "We can prove it. Show him all the videos on the tablet." So on the very first video on the tablet, you could see the edge of the door in the bedroom. And you could see Amy walking forward and floating up. So the captain thought, well, this matches the story. But as he was looking, he looked more intently at the screen. And he said, "What are these things?" And Amy said, "What things?" And he pointed to the screen. And all over the walls were little oblong-shaped, glowing things. For things was all we can call them. And Amy said, "I don't know." He said, "You must have brought them on board because they haven't been here before." So Amy said, "I don't know. There's nothing like that on our world." And the man said, "Well, they haven't been on our ship." And then Oliver said, "Yes, I think they have." And the man looked at Oliver and said, "What do you know about them?" And he said, "Well, I think I can hear them talking. They're beginning to say something, but I can't quite make it out." So they picked up the tablet and looked around in the room that they were in, which was a big room with lots of controls and flashing lights and knobs and buttons and levers, probably the control room of this ship. And as they looked around, though they couldn't see anything with their naked eyes, but on the camera they could see little bright glowing blobs. And Oliver walked over to one that was slightly larger than the rest and kneeled down and said, "Hello." And a little voice came to him saying, "Hello, can you help us?" And Oliver said, "I think I can." So he turned around and said, "He wants help, can you not hear him?" And Amy said, "I can just about." And the man said, "I can't hear anything. You're making this up." And Oliver said, "No, we're not." And Amy said, "Well, if you think about it, we're from a planet that you don't know. And you're definitely from a planet that we don't know. I don't know where these are from, but you can understand me and I can understand you. Do you speak English on your planet?" And the man said, "English? What's English?" And she said, "English is the language we speak. Now, I think there's something in the doors that when we come through the doors, it allows us to understand and be understood by all the intelligent creatures around." She said, "I think these little blob things are intelligent." So the big captain said, "No, No? Who knows? So Amy went over, and Ollie, and they listened carefully, because their voices were very low. And these creatures told them a story that they had lived on the world that this ship walked going to and from. It was once a beautiful planet, well, beautiful to them. And the ships came and destroyed it. They mined and drilled and blasted until there was very little left of the world. So the people got on board the ships and lived on them. Now the people on the ship couldn't see them or hear them, so everybody was happy. Nobody knew they were there, and they would go around and clean up the ship. They would eat all the scraps and all the dirt, because what was dirt to the blue people was food to these little creatures. So they always kept the ship clean. Now Amy and Oliver told this to the great captain, and he went, "Oh, that does explain something I've been thinking about for a while. The first time we went to visit their planet, the ship was a regular ship. We had even crew members that did cleaning. But shortly after we left, I was under the impression that they had done something to the ship and made it a self-cleaning ship." And Amy said, "You mean like self-cleaning ovens?" And he said, "Well, whatever an oven is, yes." He said, "I thought the ship just cleaned itself. So we took all the people off cleaning duties and put them on other duties, because we never needed to clean the ship." And she said, "Well, no, you didn't, because apparently these little creatures have been helping us out and not getting paid for it." And he looked at her with a scowl. "I don't really believe this. But I don't have much choice. So we still haven't found our saboteurs." And Amy said, "I think you may have. Are you taking this ship to be scrapped?" And he went, "Yes, it's very old now." She said, "Well, that's what's wrong. These people don't want to lose their home. You're going to take this, chop it up, and they can't live in space. They won't be able to live anywhere. They'll die." So the captain said, "Oh, have they been making us change course all the time so we can never get to where the scrapyard is?" And Amy said, "Yes, so they said." So the captain went and looked at his charts, and he said, "Here's a planet. It doesn't have many ores or many expensive things on it. It's really just a green leafy planet. Would they like that?" And the little creatures apparently said yes. So the captain changed his course and went to the planet. And he sent out a message to all the other ships that had been to the mined planet to check for these little creatures and to bring them to this planet. Soon there were ships coming from all directions. And lots of these little creatures got off the ships and lived in among the trees. But the captain said, "Could a few of them come and help us? Maybe we could learn to communicate with them ourselves." So Amy had a word, and they said yes, they wouldn't mind helping us out. Some would go on the ships and clean up after us, but only for 2 years. And then you would bring them back and some more would go, provided nobody ever done any mining on this planet. So it was all agreed. No sooner was it agreed than a pillar of smoke appeared. And the captain said, "Is this your special portal?" And Amy said, "I think so." And Oliver said, "About time. I want to get back to Minecraft." So the door opened up, and as they were going through, Amy said, "Goodbye." And she said goodbye to the little creatures. Though she wasn't looking through the camera, she knew they were there. And she heard a very little voice in the distance saying, "Goodbye, thank you for your help." So they got in, sat down on the bed, and the door closed. Went all sparkly, changed through all the colours of the rainbow, and went back to a plain white door. Just then, the door opened, all by itself. Well, no, not really. Nana was behind it. She said, "Are you still on them silly games? Are you coming downstairs? I've got some food." So the kids got up and said, "We'll be there in a second." And just as they went to go out the door, Oliver said, "Because of these little creatures and things like that, maybe we shouldn't put it on YouTube." And Amy went, "No, we'll just keep it for ourselves." The end. I hope you enjoyed tonight's story. If you did, please press the thumbs up. So like if you like. Good night.